Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you guys are watching this in the world. I'm Solreta Antaria, and today I have the lovely David Swell McCann. And hopefully, or Swell, hopefully, I've said it
Yeah,
right.
I'm liking it so far. Yeah.
Good. So I came across your work via Instagram, and I was just so engaged and enchanted. And it's not often that you get to watch, a story or something that really just like lures you in and
Mm,
really just like captures your heart and your
mm,
imagination and just like
mm.
fills everything with wonderment. So yeah, just seeing one of your stories, I binge watched like story after story after story,
Wow.
and I'm enchanted.
Oh, that's so lovely to hear. It's funny, the whole social media thing, because only recently can I say that I found some comfort with it. I had this trajectory of promotion for the longest time, and what I felt like I was trying to talk people into things, and I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't want to be there. And then when I finally gave all that up and decided it wasn't going to be a part of, the way in which I find people to work with, and started having fun and just talking about things that I thought were important, then it was fantastic. And almost immediately, people's response has been similar to what you said.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that because it made such an impact. So before I get too carried away, because I literally want to jump in and show people the
Great.
video that enchanted me so much, I just want to share a little bit about what you do. So I've just got up here on the page. So we've got that you're a lead teacher and trainer, that you've been working your narrative with your whole life, and it's become matrix and context for just about everything. I've been a painter, a filmmaker, an elementary teacher, an author, a writer, a teller, of sparkle stories over and over again, and I found storytelling to be the most enduring and clarifying form of connection. It all works when nothing else can, and it's teachable. And I think what also drew me to you as well was, coming from Australia, a country where we have, the dream time and we have Aboriginal storytelling and
Mhm.
things like this. I think it's one of those lost arts that we're starting to hopefully capture back with people like yourself. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you kind of got into storytelling? Because I know you sort of started out as a bit of was it an elementary school teacher?
Well, a lot of the more narratively dense jobs that I had happened before teaching. So I went to school for visual art, and had an experience with a teacher that asked me to visually explore the difference between narrative and illustration. And that was interesting. That was a real struggle, actually. And I learned quite a bit in my, mistakes, my failure to actually fulfill the assignment, and noticing what other people did and finding that really, I still didn't understand it. So it propelled me to want to explore that further. And then into filmmaking, then into acting, and then started to write when I decided to become a school teacher, and taught Waldorf school for a bunch of years. And Waldorf education's very story rich. There's the pedagogy is taught generally through story, even up into the middle grades, and to a certain extent in high school. But the understanding of what a story is much wider than I think most people think. Yes, there is the once upon a time type stories, but history would be considered a story. Um, Conversations of meaning would be a story exchange, and then it even got to the point where presentations and conversations in the faculty room were considered storytelling. And so I came out of that, and my wife at the time, now business partner Elizabeth, came up with this idea of actually turning it into a business. And so we started a business called Sparkle Stories, and it's become quite popular. And my job was to write and tell all the stories. So I got a lot of practice and ended up creating about 1,500 stories, and they're all pedagogical. They all have a spark of learning or healing or some gift to children. The idea is to is to help them through common challenges using story. And that has proven out. And then since then, for the last 5-6 years, I've been teaching mostly in schools and on occasion with municipalities, local government, how to do this. And then 3 years ago, we started a business, How to Story, with a teaching partner who was also a grade school teacher. And that's been really, it's like everything has led me to this point of recognizing that these are very powerful skills. They transform in a matter of one story. And there are agencies and power structures that know this. The advertising world, the business world to a certain extent, elected officials know how to use storytelling to get people's behavior to change. And these skills aren't as readily available to parents and teachers and people who really could use these. So that's been the mission for a while now.
Oh, and now I know why I resonated with it so much with my children growing up through Waldorf schools too.
Oh, there you go. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and it was always enchanting, when we'd get invited to go in and watch in the classroom and the teachers would be telling the story, you'd sort of be, on the edge of your seat listening to
Right.
the story.
Yes.
And just, they don't hide any of the gore or different things when they talk about whether it's like the trolls or the Vikings and all of these characters and the princesses. And you just get so engaged with being in the middle of the story. It's just, it's fascinating.
That's actually been I would say, the biggest discovery in the past few years. Now, as an elementary school teacher, I could see that this was happening, but I wasn't able to really, codify and understand it in a very, to be able to explain it. But I have found in teaching this for quite some time now that the content, you mentioned didn't hide the gore and all of that, the content actually is the least important part. And that if you are holding a space with your voice and with your presence, and if you have a direct link to your imagination, you're able to actually weave a story that almost transcends whatever it is you're talking about. The connection becomes the real experience. And we know this. We have this experience when we connect with another person. It's the best thing ever. And we kind of don't care what they're talking about. And
Yeah.
I've found that children are similar. There's a message there. There's a lesson there, to be sure, but it's low on the list of priorities for them.
And I think that's part of also what I saw in yours, that, it was like through being in touch with your story, you were in touch with this magical realm that you had your hand like grasping. Because I do tarot and, psychic work and things, I would put it in the category of the star card, where she has the cup being filled by the galaxy and the
Yeah.
universe, and her job is to be the conduit to pour this out onto the planet. That's how I felt that you were.
Well, you mentioned the Aborigine people, that there's this story that came to me with the idea being, and I don't know which specific group this comes from, so I apologize for not doing my research, but what I heard and what I understood was that the stories already exist. They're around us like bubbles, and so some of them are really big bubbles, some of them are really small, but they're available. And so at any given point, we can reach up and choose one of them. And some people are willing, brave, it's the right time, whatever it is, to pick a big one. But it's the picking. It's not like I don't ask any writer and they'll talk about how it's almost like the story moves through them. So that cup is very much the image that I experience, which is my job is to hold the cup up. The rest of it just happens.
I love that. And that really, that transpires with the way that I do readings and, kind of look into these mystical realms. And it's like Rudolf Steiner talks about that there's some people that were in contact with, other realms. I really, I love that philosophy that
Yeah.
he has and the worlds that he talks about, because as a clairvoyant, the things that he describes are the things that I've seen. And there's
Mm.
not many people that can describe those sorts of things.
It is very. I don't often talk about this in the training. I train adults in this. It's called restorative storytelling, and what I work with the kids isn't quite so formal. It's really storytelling and story listening skills. But there's an aspect to this that I don't underline quite so much, which is the intuitive part of storytelling. That when you are in that storytelling space, which is primarily a listening space, you have access to far more information than your conscious mind. So it's almost like dreams in that way, but I also think it's a lot like being able to, read energy and being able to actually, um, be like an antenna to information that can come from without. And you can integrate it into a story in such a way that you're attending the listener and serving them with this information that's coming in a sense through you, translated by you, I guess, and then deliver something that you might not understand, but you feel is actually what was called for.
Yeah. Oh, that's perfect. And I think that's that magic and that engagement that I see you doing. So I'll pop up the Instagram
Okay.
and let's have a look at this. So we've got, if you guys want to go over to Storytelling with David on Instagram, please like and share and subscribe and follow, because it is fascinating. So we've got your little link up there as well that goes to your website. We will be popping the link in the little description box below. But it was this one here. Hopefully this works. Um, with the
I'm from outer space. I got Milky Way for blood, evolution in my veins. I'm God, I've been far away. I'm illuminated now, make a move, start the waves. I've been dreaming about flying for a long time.
I hate to jump on top of this, but this is a master class in all the forms of communication. 55% is nonverbal, 38% vocality, 7% is content, and this performer is hitting every mark, which is probably why this is circulating around virally. Watch the eye movement, the positionality, the relationship to space, the camera movement, the vocality, and then the content.
So yeah, that was just a little taste of you breaking down one of the stories, which is just so enchanting. And there was another one as well. I won't pop it up now because I'll let people enjoy it at their own time. But it was you were describing this beautiful blonde girl that was on stage singing, and she had fairies in her voice. And that's why I've named this episode "There Are Fairies in Our Voices." Do you perhaps want to talk a little bit about the different types of archetypes that you see within people?
Well, it's interesting. There's been a fair amount of response to that. It really surprised me that, I use that kind of language all the time because I find that people are willing to entertain, um, you know, powers that they can't necessarily see or hear. Not quite sure what to call them. If they are, sometimes it fits within a religious language. Sometimes it fits within a more Jungian vocabulary. And I like fairies, and so this particular framework that I'm using is more directional. So up, down, forward, and back. And so I tried to find natural forces that aligned with those kinds of directions. And I think the easiest thing is to actually experience it in your body, and then it makes sense. So if you feel up, if you have an up feeling like you're floating, your vision widens, you notice details, in this up space, you're like a hawk that can perceive everything. And you notice all the changes, and things get kind of magical because you're up and around, and you have a certain distance to things, whereas down, you're kind of incarnated in your own body. You're like in the earth. You and the earth are one. You're solid, and you become very aware of the sensations of your body, but in particular your emotions and your feelings. And in this space, it can be very connective. When you connect with another person, it feels really enduring. Whereas up, it's very changeable, like the wind. And then forward is, momentum, action, focus, let's go. And this is where, things happen. This is the land of verbs, is in this forward. And then back is more contained, safe. It has a vantage to it, but it's more like you're sitting back in a nice cozy chair, and you can see everything before you. You've got snacks, you've got a glass of water, you've got a little blanket over you. Everything's fine, and you feel contained. And so those are the 4 parts of storytelling, with the content being up here, with the actual emotional connection being in down, the action, and then the containment of the story. It has a beginning, it has an end, it has a purpose. It's contained. And so fairies were up, lots of change, lots of things happening. Busy. And then trolls are down. Gnomes might also work, where it's like, let's build a thing, and it's going to stay. And here I am. It's a little bit more serious. Forward, dragons, just movement, fire, here we go. And then back, I kind of went into a water space with a water nymph or a mermaid, where you feel surrounded and nurtured, and everything is right here for you, and it just feels great. So that's kind of the algorithm, if you will.
Yeah, I love that. And I was going to ask you about the mermaids, because I know when we exchanged messages, you were saying there was mermaids in my voice. I'm like, I have to ask you what that means. And I had a bit of an intuition around it, but it's just, it encourages me to do more meditations, hearing that.
Do you want me to say a little bit more about what I hear?
Yeah, because I get a lot of my clients and viewers will comment on my voice and how it's relaxing. So yeah, that would be really interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's so this is my perspective. This is what I'm hearing. This is how this being interprets your sound. So it's not me giving advice or even any coaching or anything. It's more, this is my experience. And so there you can hear the container. It has some it feels like there's been some time put into inhabiting your voice. And so people who spend time listening to their voice as they speak, recording it and listening to it, you begin to contain it. And for those who are willing to kind of go into this back gesture rather than into, forward and down, which is like, let's build a thing quickly, but instead let's sit back into that process and take our time. Some like a real vessel gets created. And so when one speaks from that space, and my experience of your voice is that I really did not know who or what we were going to talk about. It was your voice. I just wanted to be around it. So the container is very inviting because it's safe. It's not going to spill out. You're going to honor the interaction. It's going to be clear. And that's really reassuring and nice to be around.
Oh, thank you. That's a really lovely description. And yeah, I have had a few people say that. So it resonates with what I've heard. Thank you. So I've got a couple of other questions for you too. So with storytelling, what do you see like the gift is? Because I really feel that there's a gift that comes with storytelling. There's almost like a magic that you're laying upon people, especially children, with engaging them. And it's hard to put into words, but the only thing I could come up with or feel was that there's a gift in it. Do you understand like what this gift could be, or
Mhm.
does that make sense to you?
Oh, absolutely, it does. I think the only thing that I would start with is to make this an exceedingly ordinary gift that has become a special gift because of a lack of consciousness. So, where I come from with storytelling is that it is like making breakfast. We all do it. And so some people will take a lot of consciousness around making breakfast and make an extraordinary breakfast for someone and know where all of the ingredients come from, and they piece it all together and then present it very beautifully, and the person who receives it feels whatever they feel. And that is a way of making breakfast. Another way of making breakfast is just popping a piece of toast in and smearing some nut butter on it, and you're out the door. You've both eaten. So storytelling, I think, is the same thing. We all do it. We need to tell stories because otherwise no one will know what we want to say. No one will know what we mean. We won't ever be able to affect anyone's behavior with our words. All of that is a kind of storytelling. And I call it storytelling rather than just communication because it's first of all, it's telling, it's out loud. And second, it's it it identifies how incredibly magical speech is. It's really not. It can be a transactional thing, and it can be very cold, and it can be very, formal in that way. I don't find that to be very much fun, and so instead, what I'm trying to encourage people to be open to is the idea that first of all, we tell stories all day long. Second, we don't call them stories. And third, we've been doing this since we've been speaking. This has been the primary way in which we've survived, is through our storytelling. This is how we created community and connection, is through language. And that language includes gestures, presence, vocality. It does include the content, eye movement, all of these things that are in nonverbal communication, which is the largest percentage of our communication is taking place. So a storyteller is someone who is conscious of all that stuff. And so the gift of it is because it's coming from someone who is taking the time, like the chef who made that breakfast. The person who's eating the toast with peanut butter is still getting the gift, but they may not consider it as quite as special as the person who knows all the different pieces and is really being conscious and intentional with the storytelling. So it's ordinary. And when there's consciousness brought to it, it bumps up the nourishment of that story that much more, that much more, that much more.
That's such a perfect word to describe what it is. It really is nourishment on a soul level.
I think so.
It feeds a different part of our beingness. Can you maybe talk a little bit about, we were just talking backstage about, understanding, or I guess like with body language and gestures and that sort of subtle art of communication, through hands and things. And I definitely noticed this when I was in Italy. And I think there might be a bit of an Italian in me because I talk a lot with my hands, and so do my Italian friends. Can you maybe talk about unconscious communication, perhaps, between different cultures? Has there been an experience that you've noticed, I guess, with communicating when English is not a shared language?
So I've been in a number of countries where that English wasn't being spoken, and the language that was being spoken I didn't understand. And I've certainly have a number of anecdotes of being able to reach and connect with, and then it's not as necessary for me to know specifically the words that we're trying to translate with each other. So that happens all the time, but we can do that if we are on Instagram and we scroll through and we just see people's faces and they're speaking, and sometimes we press to listen because their face is moving in such a way that it's something that we are attracted to. So you can have this experience all the time just by turning on a screen, watching people, and ideally there won't be text so that your eyes will go focus on the language, but you can pick up how much information and even just a level of connection you feel with someone just by the way in which they're moving their eyebrows. You when you speak, you use your eyebrows like people would their hands. And
Yeah.
so and the same thing with is this okay that I'm talking about you?
No, it's fine. And I'm very conscious that I remember being younger and trying to not make my eyebrows move. And now I'm like, that's just part of it.
Okay. But I apologize for not asking. This is a.
Oh no, you're fine,
I don't want
David.
you to
No,
make
I'm quite comfortable with it.
Okay. Well, I'm celebrating it because it's all communication, and I can tell certain things with, the eyebrows, the tilts of the head. You have what I experience to be a very wide vocabulary of smiles. You have a bunch of different smiles that you can use at any given point, and your eyes are very expressive. So there's quite a bit there without moving your hands at all. There's a lot that's being communicated. And, and then there's what's going on behind you, and there's what's going on behind me. I have these words written behind me. At some point, you were probably wondering, dogs, dragons, pirates, superheroes, what's happening there? So that's communication. The little lights are communication. Is this a chalkboard? That's all saying something. I've got this other language here on my shirt. Tattoos, there's information there. Glasses, hair pulled back, beard. Oh, there's gray. You can tell some age. All of that stuff is information. And you'll get that without me opening my mouth or moving my hands.
Yeah, and I think that perfectly kind of packages, how we do pick up so subtly, but we're just not as conscious of it. And that's what I love about what you do, is that it actually gets you to come into present moment, because I think so much in this day and age, we're not in present moment. We're doing a billion things at once. And, through watching some of your videos on breaking this information down, it actually just makes me feel like I stop, like on a being level. Whereas a lot of the time you'll kind of listen in the background, or you'll have like somewhat of an interest. But when I watch your videos, I'm fully engaged. Everything else stops around me. Do you find other people communicate that to you around your storytelling or around what you share?
I've definitely had people reflect back to me how it's unusual for them. And one of the things that I really enjoy is when, so I teach these cohorts of adults, and they will talk about how this feels like a sacred space for them to communicate, and that how challenging it is for them to do these things outside of this space. And that's something that I really want to work on, because I'm in this space all the time and it's fantastic. So there's no reason why other people can't be in this space, which I don't know, maybe we can call it like a form of embodiment, being present. I'm here and I like the sound of my voice. So me speaking is a joyful activity. And I think people listening or being around me while I'm speaking, they're getting subtle cues of joy. And so that's nice to be around, is someone who's joyful. All those little, here's some numbers for you. Boy, this is really, I can send you the research that discovered these numbers, but apparently every second, our sensory apparatus is sending 11 million bits of information to our brain. Every second, 11 million bits, individual bits of information. Our conscious mind can hold between 16 and 32 bits of information.
Wow.
So, 1 second, I'm picking up this. I'm looking at things, but it's not registering on my conscious mind. So where does all that other information go? And there's a whole lot of research into this new subconscious, and some would even say that includes the body. Massive amounts of information are being stored here and affecting our behavior on a basic level, our day-to-day, and then major things like financial decisions, elections, things like this that we will do even if our conscious mind says, why, don't do that, don't do that. But we've got way more information that says do that because we picked stuff up, you know? And so the cool thing about being a storyteller, or at least an intentional, conscious, intuitive storyteller, is that you get to actually watch yourself pay attention and actually unpack your own behavior. So it's matrix level stuff to be able to actually, you know, the breakdown that you saw me do, you can do on yourself all day long and see like, ooh, why'd I say that? You know?
No, I love the science behind it too. And, you know, a big part of my research, I'm into a lot of the brain work from my background in natural medicine, and sort of like more the consciousness level is where I shifted it to. And especially with understanding the psychic senses and how we sort of pick up on, you know, with this antenna that you and I talked about,
Yeah.
how we pick up on and receive all of this. And I think that we see this with, you know, some kids, you know, like with ADHD. In my background working as a kinesiologist many years ago, we would joke and say, no, it's just attention dialed into a higher dimension. You know, you're picking up on so much information at such a great speed. So I do think that there is, you know, different changes within our brain too. And I think it's interesting when we look at adapting and we look at the way that things are kind of, you know, progressed from caveman days, that we would have had to have more of the amygdala switched on to be, you know, in fear not to go out of the cave for the lion that might be on the outside, or for, you know, nowadays it'll be like traffic and different things, and we'll still get that same kind of fear response. So I think when we understand our brains and we understand the way the subconscious and unconscious mind works, we're able to navigate in the world very differently.
I think so. I really do.
Mm.
And I love hearing that reflected back with people who are, you know, consciously taking these sorts of things up, whether it's in my world with storytelling or other intuitive tracks. It does feel like we're on the threshold of something. It does feel like there's an accelerating force that's inviting more and more people into questioning the ordinary way in which we do things.
I
And
think so too. And, you know, we definitely have a lot more UFO activity, that's for sure. And I know for, you know, when I filmed UFOs and when I've shared footage, or even if I've been there with other people that are viewing it too, so much of the communication that comes from when you're in an experience with a high level advanced race like that, most of it is on a conscious or on like a super conscious level. So I sort of visualize it or think about it like they're coming into our world that might be more of like a heavy kind of duality. You know, we have good and we have evil and we have all these other things, whereas they're coming from a world that has sort of like more peace, more wholeness. And I think that that's also creating like a subtle shift. And I think we're picking up on, whether it's through the higher part of our conscious, different ways about doing things. And I think we're going through the throes of some things just feeling extremely wrong on the earth right now. And then it's opening the question within us to move ahead in a different direction. But I wanted to ask you about, what do you see for future, like with the work that you're doing, and how do you see this benefiting? I guess because you're really working with the next generations too, especially with this storytelling with kids.
we've built our business in such a way so that it is actually a lifetime curriculum. Because I have so many years of telling stories to kids, a lot of kids will come to us and want to learn these things. So kids will come in at, you know, age 5, and they'll do a course called Tail Spinners for a few years, where they, through fun and community work, you know, because it's interactive, they'll learn certain storytelling, but even more importantly, story listening, attention skills. And we offer the same sorts of things in these evergreen products camps, storytelling camps. That's what these are. There's a Dogtown camp, a dragon camp, a pirate camp, and a superhero
That's so
camp.
cool.
And they're
Do
all,
you pick just one, or can you go to like multiple camps?
you can do all of them. Yeah, they do different things. So the dog one is, pirate camp is basically about celebrating diversity, the things that make you unique and why you need to be a part of the group so that you can bring that diversity there. Pirates are good at that. And superheroes is all about essentially seeing the things that are deemed in certain circles as mistakes or shortcomings are actually indications of incredible power if you're willing to actually integrate that through storytelling. The dog one, it's called Dogtown, is, learning from our dog friends on how to make new friends and how to join groups.
Oh,
And so these are all storytelling camps. So they're all teaching storytelling skills, but with the imagery of these things. And Dragon Camp is all about, the energy that moves through us sometimes as emotions. And so, especially now post-COVID, there's a lot of big emotions, a lot of big energy moving through kids, and a lot of parents that are worried about that. So it's a way of being able to actually channel, interpret, and express that energy in a storytelling fashion. So it gives them some tools. So anyway, kids come in young with that, and then there's this free-telling group, which is a little bit older, where we learn spontaneous storytelling in a game format. And then the teenagers are all about communication skills for social fitness. So storytelling for social fitness. And then the restorative storytelling is for the adults. And it has historically been a course structure over the course of 12 weeks. But as of June, the end of June, we're switching over to a membership, so that because people who have graduated want to keep in practice. So month to month, keep practicing with each other, learn new things, all of that. And
are these, sorry to interrupt, are these available online? Because I know like a lot of my listeners will be, wondering if it's something they have to go to in a physical location.
No, it's all online. It's I'll do from time to time and go do teacher trainings or something like that. But this business, How to Story, is all online, and it's people around the world. It's I've got plenty of people in Australia that are doing this. There's a real appetite for it there, actually. But this is a long answer to. Oh yeah, okay. Now I'll actually answer your question. So that was all the setup. I think where this is headed is that I am finding a lot of people are upset. And I'm finding a lot of people are quick to outrage and are retaliative in their bearing, their demeanor, their way of navigating through the world, and they're exhausted consequently. And so the gift of storytelling, of being in a storytelling consciousness, is very much like, this analogy gets used all the time, but being able to see the matrix. So you can see all the stories that are upsetting people, and you can actually step out of it for a moment, notice which ones get you, notice which ones you're putting out there, and you can actually have a little bit more agency. And in my experience, and in the people that I've worked with, they have found calm, confidence, and more energy consequently. So I think that storytelling, conscious and even intuitive storytelling, is going to be a part of the, our little tool belt for the future. I think it's going to be a way that's going to help all of us connect better, especially with people we don't agree with.
I think that's such a great answer. And it's interesting because with all of the artificial intelligence and all of the, other things that are being pushed, it's interesting. I see two timelines. I see, yes, there's that. And there's, where everything's becoming super high speed and super high, information being thrown at you. But what I'm actually feeling being born, and I've noticed this for maybe about 2 months, there's more of like this energy. And sometimes we'll call it like an egregore, where there's, an energy starts to be born of people's ideas and people's energy, and it can get bigger and bigger and bigger, or almost takes on a life force of itself. I do feel that there is an energy and a life force moving towards embodying not just like this spiritual essence of similar energies to what you're talking about, but I feel that we're getting back to more of a connected community type feel, more where we're actually holding space to listen and to be part of conversation and community and coming together in a very real sense. And I think that's still something that can transpire online, but I feel it's kind of slowing us down in a way and causing us to come inward because we're being forced so outward.
Yes. I love that picture you just painted, and actually, I started to see it on your screen. You were actually beginning to illustrate energetically. It was pretty nifty. This AI, event that's taking place right now. It's very interesting from a storytelling standpoint because AI is already quite capable of creating high quality stories. So really good stuff. You can actually, the the artificial intelligence can actually write a novel that is interesting to read, and it won't be long before it will be able to tell stories in a very engaging, entertaining way. My We'll see what happens after this, but my intuition says that what might be missing in that is the actual connective force. And I think, like we talked about before, what we all want from stories more than anything else is a bridge, is an opportunity to actually find the thing that both of us can hold on to. And so the fact that an AI story is beautifully written and well told becomes irrelevant in that engagement because it's a human being and a human being, and we want to connect. Why else are we here? And so we'll exchange stories until we find the thing, and then we'll just rest in that connection, and it will be our touch point from that point forward. Even if we're politically on opposite sides of the spectrum, we're forever connected because of that, and that makes the world a better place, I think.
I think so too, and I really resonate with what you've said. And I do feel that that's perhaps what will be lacking, with the AI side, that it's not that person or not you holding the cup up,
Mm.
to the universe and having that connection or that direct kind of downpouring from this higher consciousness. Because when we look at it, from an AI point of view, what is AI connecting to? Is it this kind of egregore kind of siphoning consciousness from different parts of the deep, dark internet?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be an interesting ride into the future. And I have to ask you, what does your T-shirt say?
Oh, ik tala ikke islensku. I'm pronouncing it very poorly, but it's I don't speak Icelandic.
I was going to ask because you spoke about Iceland before.
Yeah.
Backstage. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say a big thank you so much for coming on. And it's been fascinating spending this time with you, hearing about storytelling. And it's giving me so many ideas, with my own children and with, applying this, and how can we kind of re-infuse this energy of storytelling back into our day-to-day lives. And I think especially with community, in bringing people together and really kind of hearing people. And I think the more that we understand the magic that our own storytelling has, the more that we will be better communicators. Can you maybe finish on telling us a bit about your camps and some of the other magical things that you have coming up?
Sure. I'll say one last thing separate from that, which is the most important storytelling skill is to actually do it. So really, it's not important for you to be good at it. That's not even a thing. So it's a thing for entertainers, but not for this kind of storytelling. So be willing, in fact, intentionally tell stories poorly, clunky, awkward, no ending. Don't know what you're talking about. Makes no sense. Just do it, especially with your kids. They will become their favorite stories ever because you're willing to do it. That's the thing. So yes, the camps are up. Those are ready to go. We're calling them pocket camps because you can download the whole thing, print out stuff if you want, do it all on the phone or whatever you want to do. But you can take it on vacation and learn some useful skills. They're small, easy, portable, all of it. And then there are interactive courses that will start in September for the kids, Tail Spinners, the Free Tellers, Understory Council for teenagers. And those start in September. And then soon after that, evergreen versions of those will be available that are similar to the camps. You can download them, do them on your own time. And the membership program, 3 levels of membership. The bottom level is unlimited, so the other 2 have a cap in terms of numbers, but the bottom level, you can have access to the full restorative storytelling curriculum on a monthly basis, and go at your own rate and do the body and voice of the storyteller, and then the actual telling of the story. And then the level 3 is how to pay attention. It's how to listen.
Yeah, and it is for everyone. It's not really, just for teachers or just for actors. It can help you in multiple different areas of life. And I really feel that it's a tool to just help you connect to people on a deeper level too.
It's a life skill for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really enjoyed our chat, and thank you. And I'll link everything below so that people can go on, have a look at your workshops and have a look at the different camps. And I'm sure a lot of adults will be interested too. So thank you for taking the time with us today.
This has been really pleasant. I've enjoyed being around you and learning from you. So thanks for inviting me.
Oh, thank you. I've learned a lot from you too. So yeah, amazing. All right. Thank you everyone for watching.